Hello everyone. What you're seeing right now is the vacant former storefront of GameCycle, dimly lit by the Sonic I thought would be closed, or at least not busy. Instead, I got a radio blasting the dirge of the day and three very excited teen girls sitting next to me who had entirely too much energy for this time of night. GameCycle was the only store in town dedicated to selling games. It was usually worked by people that I enjoyed being around, and I had many good times there. I placed third in a Smash Bros. Tournament, made many poor financial decisions, and sold off many of my old games I no longer played. They wound up closing because of some tax problems apparently, and they actually closed up a month earlier than I thought they were going to, leaving me to stare at this vacant store that was for my last 2 months in this town. Things didn't go according to plan for GameCycle, and I know how that feels. The shot isn't quite as I had it in my head, and I sure didn't plan on being sat next to some hyperactive teens with no concern for anyone but themselves, but rarely does life go exactly the way you intended it to, and that's okay. All your best efforts coincide with the independent outcomes of the universe, and you can either choose to accept whatever outcome you get and work with it, or you can choose to be disappointed. It's up to you. As you might have noticed by now, this isn't the video a lot of you were hoping you'd see from me. I'm painfully aware of that. I've been spending the last 2 months in a whirlpool of worry, stuck in a state of working hard to come back and not disappoint you, while also believing I already had, and nothing I could do upon coming back would change that. I didn't feel like I had a choice in the matter, like it was inevitable. No matter what, either my expectations or yours were going to be left unsatisfied. I've mentioned a couple of times now that things on this channel, as well in my life outside of the internet, were going to be changing. I didn't really specify what all is changing, and I have only really expressed a general sense of anxiety about it all. It's mainly due to the fact that I don't really know still what all is going to be changing or how I feel about it. I've been doing practically the same thing on this channel for a number of years now, and as much fun as I've had doing it, I can't honestly say that it's been fully satisfying or rewarding. I've had to sacrifice a lot to make things work on here, and I've spent countless hours working on videos that I knew wouldn't be received well, just because they weren't the next episode of any of the dozens of furry visual novels I've played. Even this video is probably not going to do well because of that. There's nothing wrong with wanting a certain thing from a channel you've subscribed to. I remember the days of being subscribed to Machinima and Screw Attack, only to find myself skipping weeks worth of videos because I only was interested in one series. It's perfectly natural to only care about the content, and not so much the creator. Some creators' content is inherently more personal than others, while some prefer to keep things impersonal. And neither are wrong for choosing the way they approach this untamed rabid monster that is YouTube. The problem I'm having is that I can't seem to decide what I'm actually trying to do here. I've been making videos since before YouTube was formed. I just filmed things for myself or to gain the false praise of my poor family members that had to sit through what I made. Is it any wonder that my family doesn't watch my stuff, in addition to the furry porn being a pretty big deterrent? When it came to actually finding something that I enjoyed doing, I never actually found my standing. If I filmed something just because I enjoyed it, it didn't do well on YouTube. That led me to spending a lot of years trying to do things that other people did, thinking I might go somewhere. Even this video you're watching right now was just an amalgamation of various elements I've lifted from far better creators than myself. Those attempts to emulate other people never did work out, of course, and so when finally in 2016 something I did, without trying to be someone else, seemed to click, over a decade's worth of built-up hope instantly converted into blind enthusiasm, then that lasted me for a good while. When those amorous episodes came out, I immediately started to look for ways to keep this train moving. I chased the success, and before I knew it, I had a formula and was just doing my best to keep the wheel of progress spinning. I was playing some games purely because people told me to, not because I had any actual interest. I'd occasionally try to diversify by doing other kinds of videos, but I found that there was not nearly as much of an audience for that as there was for the furry visual novels. I tried so many things, and I always felt like there was such a drop in enthusiasm that I felt beholden to the formula, to making things I knew would get watch time and would keep that subscriber count climbing. That isn't to say that I didn't enjoy what I was doing, far from it. I meant every word I said in my top 20 favorite visual novel videos. There are visual novels that I very much enjoyed, and the voice acting I did for some of those scenes were so much fun. But when I was forced to take a break from it all with my spine disc herniation, it really felt like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing during that time. I wasn't giving my audience what they wanted, what my patrons on Patreon were paying for, so I spent all my time that I was supposed to be healing and recovering just thinking about all the stuff I was going to do when I came back, and how I wasn't doing the stuff I was supposed to be doing right now. I couldn't rest, I couldn't relax, it was just every minute was, you're not making videos, you should be working on something, you're not doing what you're supposed to doing, and you're worthless for not doing what you're supposed to be doing. I got so wrapped up in doing what I could to make my return be all that it could be that I actually came back early a couple of times to do all of the above, or even attempted several times to try to film something only to be sidelined again because I was too injured to sit in my computer chair. But finally, I was able to come back. I recorded an interview and a couple of videos, and with minimal pain. I started downloading the updates I'd missed, and I had to decide which game to start with. I asked myself, which game do I want to play first? And then I heard silence in response. I didn't want to play any of them. These were stories I adore, with valuable story updates I had yet to see, and yet I found myself completely uninterested and without motivation. This was something I wanted to do, but I also just didn't have it in me to do it. One of the common misconceptions about clinical depression is that it's just feeling sad. While there's a good amount of that to come with having depression, that's far from the only symptom. My grandfather once fell into such a depressed state that he literally couldn't get out of bed for a whole year. He didn't spend the whole year crying or just feeling bad for himself, but he was completely without motivation for life, and that left him crippled. Mental illnesses are physical illnesses, just as impactful as a broken leg or a herniated spinal disc. I've had depression for as long as I can remember, and have only added to the mental illness pile over the years. I knew what this was, and so I didn't try to force myself to act enthused on film, because I knew that would only make things worse. So I took a day to rest and recover. That day turned into a week, which turned into a month, which turned into several months. I've spent so much time on the shelf that, apart from a couple of bills that won't go away, my back injury isn't even that big of an issue anymore. I was just depressed and found it harder and harder to get back to doing YouTube again. I think it was Ethan Klein who said that the longer you spend away from YouTube, the harder it is to get back to doing videos again. So my time away really hasn't helped much. I've been spending this time thinking of different things I could do for videos, different things that I would be interested in doing, and almost never was the answer another episode of a visual novel. I've got a whole list of ideas I want to try, but still had this barrier in the way keeping me from doing the thing. I've also been dealing with the fact that I'm moving soon. I'm moving from a small apartment in an area I'm familiar with to a basement of a house owned by people I don't know too well in an area I know even less. There's been a lot of problems with this move, none of which I feel comfortable talking about online. Needless to say, though, that I do not feel comfortable with the way things are going right now, and the fact that I can do nothing but wait for the bad to happen to me just makes things worse. I've been sitting in this state of flux for a long time now. Moving soon, but not right now. Needing to come back to YouTube, but not right now. Having a lot of stuff to handle that I can't share with you. The only way I've been able to combat this is by having to change how I see things. Some change for the better, some admittedly unhealthy, but necessary for survival. When it comes to YouTube, I've had to decide if my interest is in doing what will do well, or doing what I want to do regardless of how it's received. Sounds like an easy choice, right? Sure does sound like one, but it isn't. The idea has been formed in my head that I can either do what I have to do to keep you guys here, or do what I want to do and, by consequence, end up losing you all. It isn't an easy decision at all. One of my biggest flaws is that I feed on feedback. If I share something I like with someone else and they wind up enjoying it, most times I'll find myself tearing up because it means so much to me to have that feedback and validation that I can't seem to keep my emotions in check. I hate this part of me because it makes me do things that I know will get the responses I want as opposed to just doing things because I want to do them. That's one of the reasons why I'm so scared to lose my YouTube audience. It's not because of the money, because outside of Patreon I'm not getting any. It's not because I have an ego and can't survive without people verbally blowing me. It's not even because I don't think anything I do matters unless I get a response. I just care about doing right by you all. I want you to be happy, and the work I've done in the past has done a lot to help a good number of you. I know because you told me, and dozens of wonderful messages over the years, and so I don't want to let you down. I want to keep going so that you all don't lose what's made you happy. But I know that if I only do what I do because of how I think it'll be received, then I won't be doing it for the right reasons. And it'll show in what I do. It isn't easy, but I've made my choice. I need to do what'll make me happy. If that's playing a visual novel in a certain day, it'll be that. If it's any of the other ideas I have on my list in a certain day, it'll be that. But I cannot do YouTube stuff with only the reception in mind. I just can't. I know this'll undo a lot of work I've done, and it may chase off some of you, and that's okay. I accept that. I just hope that some of you will stick around for what's to come. I look forward to seeing what comes next. This isn't what I was planning on happening, but sometimes you just gotta go with what life gives you and choose to do what'll make you happy. I'll be moving in the last week of July, and when I get to Chicago, I'll have significantly less free time than I had down here. So videos will be coming out far less often than they were before the back injury. They won't all be what you would expect, and some things you used to see on this channel might not ever come back. I don't know yet what will and won't happen, but I do know that whatever does happen will happen because I want it to, and for me, that's gonna have to be good enough. Thank you all for watching. If you want to support the new direction this channel is going, feel free to subscribe and do the bell thing. I've also got a Patreon for those willing and able to donate. I'm also relaunching my second channel, Decker Jack, where I'll be putting more video diary kinds of things and whatever the hell else winds up on there. So if that sounds interesting to you, the link will be in the description. I hope to see you all soon. But until then, so long, everyone.